Hello, I'm Justin Dries with the National Council of Farmer Cooperatives, and welcome to another episode of NCFC's 2020 Washington Conference Virtual Policy Briefing Series. Joining me today is Kelsey Billings. How are you doing today, Kelsey?
Hi, Justin. Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good today. Thanks, Kelsey. One of the issues that I wanted to talk to you about today is one that's been in the news a lot kind of before the COVID pandemic came about, and one that agriculture in Washington, D.C. has been talking a little bit more about, and that's climate change. So why are folks here in the D.C. ag community talking about climate change right now?
Well, I think for a few reasons. The topic of federal climate change policy is not a new one by any means. It's been debated time and time again, but there certainly has been an uptick in climate change dialogue here in Washington, D.C. And climate change policy has become a major focus of several committees on the Hill as of late. Just for an example, the House Energy and Commerce Committee has made climate change policy one of their central focuses. They just released a framework back in January called the Clean Future Act, and the plan for that act is to achieve 100% clean economy by 2050. Their plan doesn't have any specific agriculture implications in it, but we're certainly going to be watching that as it moves forward. Also, Speaker Pelosi formed a bipartisan House Select Committee on the climate crisis back in February in 2019. And the committee asked industry stakeholders to weigh in on ideas for mitigating impacts on climate change. They were supposed to come out with a comprehensive set of recommendations by March 2020, but obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic that we're in the middle of, that deadline has been pushed back. Also, there have been several legislative proposals that have come about recently. One that I'll mention is the recent bipartisan Senate bill called the Growing Climate Solutions Act. And this act creates a certification program through USDA to help solve technical entry barriers for farmers and forest landowners who are wanting to participate in the carbon credit markets. This isn't a comprehensive climate change bill by any means, but it does have the broad support of food and ag groups around town, as well as environmental organizations and several Fortune 500 companies. And then finally, I wanted to note that USDA recently released its Ag Innovation Agenda in February. And the goal of that agenda is to increase ag productivity by 40% to feed 9.7 billion people by 2050, while cutting the ag footprint by half. So the innovation agenda focuses on 4 benchmarks, including food loss and waste, carbon sequestration and greenhouse gas emissions, water quality, and renewable energy. So these are just a few initiatives that I wanted to highlight, and these combined with the private sector's increased focus on climate change are really putting this top of mind for policymakers and stakeholders here in DC.
So it sounds like there's been a lot going on with climate change recently, and I know one of those things was this past December, I think it was, NCFC and several other farm groups came together to form Farmers for a Sustainable Future. Can you talk a little bit about, the group, what their mission is, what their role in this debate is, and maybe about what NCFC's participation in the group?
Sure. So Farmers for Sustainable Future is made up with more than 20 ag producer groups in DC. And the groups came together last year to figure out how agriculture can have a robust conversation around the issue of climate change. And the goal of the group is really to serve as a clearinghouse of information on ag sustainability efforts and to serve as a resource to the Hill as they develop climate policies and how they might impact agriculture. The group was able to develop a set of shared principles. They focus on innovation, resilient infrastructures, science-based research, reducing barriers, and focusing on outcomes. So NCFC has been really active with this group to provide a co-op perspective to these conversations and to make sure that co-ops have a voice when the Hill does consider climate legislation.
It's always good to have a broad section of agriculture here in Washington kind of working in the same direction. So that's a very good group to be a part of. And talking a little bit more about sustainability, Kelsey also heads up our sustainability programming here at NCFC. And, while obviously sustainability is much broader than just environmental issues in general, never mind climate change, what role do you see climate change playing in co-op sustainability programs going forward here?
Right. Well, as you mentioned, Justin, environmental issues play a major role in co-op sustainability, in addition to the other two pillars, those being economic and social considerations. But the topic of climate change, I think, is really unique because it plays a major role in each of those three pillars of sustainability. I think co-ops have a great story to tell already about how they're shrinking their footprint through their own sustainability efforts and voluntary programs that they're participating in. And I envision climate change will play an increasing role in our sustainability work here at NCFC, especially as co-op customers put more emphasis on carbon reduction as they determine what a sustainable business model looks like for them. So we're looking forward to collaborating with NCFC's Sustainability Working Group as these climate discussions evolve, and exploring how co-ops could benefit from voluntary incentive-based programs and policies. And I'd just like to note, Justin, climate change is going to be a major topic that we discuss at our annual Sustainability Working Group meeting coming up here on October 8th.
That's great. I think it will be a good discussion there. And, I think one of the things that will go into that discussion are looking at the opportunities that agriculture and co-ops might have as, Congress starts, in the next Congress looking at climate change legislation. What do you think some of those are or might be?
I think innovation is going to be key with any policies or reduction goals that, Congress, USDA, or even the private sector puts forward. Innovation and resiliency are true strengths of co-ops already, given the close relationships that they have with their farmer owners and their ability to collaborate with one another. Co-ops are uniquely situated not only to participate at the co-op level, but to help their farmer owners in producing at the farm level as well and helping them to succeed. So, through voluntary incentive-based federal type programs, farmers could be rewarded for practices that many of them have already been doing for many years. There may be opportunities to access new markets, and ultimately this could really have a positive impact on their bottom line. So, in any event, I think a continued focus on innovation and utilizing those strong relationships that co-ops have with their members already is going to be key to success in this space.
In the past, a lot of folks in agriculture viewed, for a variety of reasons, climate change legislation as less of an opportunity and more as a challenge or a threat. Do you think at this point that co-ops and their members should, be concerned about climate change legislation moving forward?
Climate change is one of those issues that it's coming our way whether we like it or not. And when it's framed the right way, I think it could offer a lot of great opportunities for agriculture and for co-ops. While Congress continues to debate the topic of climate change, NCFC is going to be advocating for policies that are voluntary, incentive-based, as well as created using the best available science. So we're working to ensure that any bill is focused on recognizing agriculture's existing contributions to carbon sequestration and emissions reductions, as well as focusing on programs that are compatible with modern production agriculture systems. It's important that NCFC and our members stay engaged in this topic and the conversations happening on Capitol Hill. And NCFC is really looking forward to collaborating with our members as policy ideas are put forward and developed here in Washington, and ensure co-ops and their members are well represented and are beneficiaries of any policies that move forward.
Thank you, Kelsey, for joining me here today. To find out more on these issues or any others that you hear during NCFC's virtual briefing series, please visit our website at www.ncfc.org. Thank you very much and have a nice day.